Hello, everybody, and welcome
Hi.
back to the Westlands in Conversation with. Today, we are talking to Broadtree. Cue the intro. So, yeah, I like that. So it's like feels like Breaking Bad music at the beginning of Breaking Bad. So today we've got some guests that go by the name of Broadtree, and I've been following these guys for actually since we started the Westlands, so it's probably a couple of years now. And I've always been fascinated with all their content and stuff, so I wanted to talk to them about that, and also just speaking to other people about country music, because that's predominantly what this channel is about. Um, quick announcement, as we've done a few times already, but Country Life for me is now out. The banner still says 7th of April, but it is now out. The response so far has been awesome to that. Thank you. We're about to hit 800 subscribers on the old YouTube. So that's going up by the day. So thank you to everyone subscribing. But let's dive straight into this. Let's get our guests in. Say hello to Broadtree.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hi, guys.
How are we doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It's been a busy weekend. Easter weekend up here, so.
Yeah, same
Just
here.
out of interest, what's the time difference?
I think
it's something we struggle with. What time are you?
Yeah, we're at like about to hit 1:30, so you guys should be around 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. We got there in the end.
No, I think because you guys are like your daylight savings starts a week or two later than ours does, which it's such a useless time change. But
yeah, we was meant to do this last week, but because of the time difference, I think we got confused about where we was.
Got it horribly wrong, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. So if you had to, let me get rid of this banner here. Let me just put this one in there instead. If you had to sum up Broadtree in a short bio, a tweet, or whatever it is that you get a few hundred characters, how would you describe Broadtree and your music?
Or are you looking at me?
Yeah, because you usually do the good one sentence one that we got.
We're a pop country duo that blends a bit of musical theater and characters within, over a bed of country music. So we both come from a background in musical theater, so that always creeps its way into our music, even if we tried not to. It's just that storytelling over there. And then country just ended up being what came out of it when we started writing. So
well, they kind of fit because that kind of musical theater and countries, that kind of storytelling music, isn't it? So we showed our guitarist Jordan one of your songs today, and he immediately went, "It's got a Disney vibe."
We'll take that. That's
which song? I gotta know which song. Which song
was it? Hang on, bear with me because I was.
I think your vocal definitely lends itself to that musical theater sound and Disney kind of feel. There's nothing wrong with that.
We're listening off your album to Running Shoes.
Oh, okay, right on. Cool.
I mean, there's a huge market for that music. It's huge. Like, it's not like, that's no joke. It is gigantic. So what led you to the musical theater initially? Then are you both in musical theater, or is it?
We're both actors, yeah, and that's how we met. We met doing shows before, because this Broadtree kind of stemmed out of the plague. It was, oh no, we have nothing to do. What do creatives do when they have nothing to do? But before that, we were both actors. I was definitely primarily musical theater, and we did a musical together before all of this and that and whatnot. So
yeah, we met via theater. We've done a couple shows together, and then. Yeah, we like calling it the plague. It's a much better word. There's way too many C words for it. So
than the apocalypse,
right?
Yeah.
Apocalypse is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and when we started, we were just bored. I mean, you take two artists who are just used to performing, and you literally take us out of that for. I think we started this in October, November. It started off as us recording a cover just because we were bored. That turned into a music video, that turned into like a live stream, and then eventually that turned into we should try writing, and it went really, really well the first time we did. And here we are 2 years later. We actually released our debut album yesterday, 2 years ago yesterday.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I follow you on Instagram. Do you find that you're following, because your numbers over the last sort of year or two have sort of shot up? So is that more down to the country music since you started the country music thing? Is that when you found that it started maybe going up?
I'd say so. I say because we kind of found our community. Like the thing about music is they need to know what you are, especially if you're sort of coming out of nowhere, right? Like they need to know, what is your genre? Where can we put you? Like why should we listen to you? If we like what sort of music do you sound like? Everybody wants to know, what would you compare yourselves to? So once we sort of found our home in country music and we found that community, we started to meet other artists. We all followed each other. We all supported each other. And then, you go, and then plus, of course, being able to play shows live also helped a lot, because now we can actually go be out there in the world. And it's not just artists following other artists on Instagram. Although I have to say, that's how we started out. And it actually made a massive difference.
Yeah, it really did.
It was a weird sort of weird environment to start a band during, because it was the middle of the plague.
Exactly. Like we didn't really it wasn't until the Canadian Country Music Awards in October of 2021 where we finally actually got to meet all the Canadian country community that we had met online. And it was so weird, because it honestly just felt like, because we'd all been just communicating so much on Instagram, that we already knew each other. So we just we fit right in. Kind of cool.
It is strange, because I do that a lot, because me and Emma are in multiple bands, and we do come across people you feel like you've known them forever. I feel like I know most of their life because of I see what's going on. It's we just bumped into each other last week, but it wasn't. We never met. You said obviously you started the band during the lockdown. I don't know why, but I feel like it was long. You've been going longer than that, because the amount of content you guys get is quite ridiculous. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I wish I had that level of energy.
I think he also wishes I had that level of energy as well.
In all fairness, the word ridiculous is one that we used after 2021, because we look back and we're like, we need to slow down. That was just way too much.
It was.
We released way too much music in 2021.
It was.
But when you, like you say, when you got nothing else to do, what do you do? I think, did we start in 21?
Well, it was because of lockdown that I was stuck in my house on my own with my dog, and I started writing, and I posted something on Facebook, and Steve and I knew each other kind of mutually. Then he got in touch and said, let's record it. So we kind of learned how to record remotely, and that's kind of how we probably started writing and singing together. So I think a lot of good stuff came out of lockdown.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think there was a lot of, I think the people had to find, like you said, how do creative people who are locked up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you need a creative outlet. You've got to get it out somehow.
I had a few months though where I didn't want to do anything. I lost my mojo for it big time. I'd never been like that in my life. I think after the first month, I was like, oh yeah, this is a really long extended holiday, and we're getting paid to not be at work. It's brilliant. and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this isn't going away. What do I do? So we just started writing songs back and forth, sending stems to each other. I've had a painstaking, and I mean, I need therapy after the levels of IT support that I've had to give Emma.
I am absolutely awful. Even today, we were in the studio today, and he was like, no, press number 1 and then the star key.
Yeah. Do you guys, because I noticed, tell me how you pronounce your name properly. Sorry. Armand. There you go. So you, do you do a lot of I see you doing a lot of that stuff on socials. So is it you that's the technical person on that front?
Yeah. I mean, Nicole's picked up quite a bit. We can show we do, whenever we show up live though, Nicole pretty much sets up all of our live gear, which is actually great, because then I can go and eat. But when it comes to producing and things like that, we're each in the chair whenever each one of us is doing vocals, and we're able to pick up on that. So coming from where Nicole started at the very beginning of all this to where she is now, it's night and day. I mean, I'm comfortable. So it's good.
I don't think Steve would quite say the same.
No, you're doing good now. Like you know how to create a new track and press record and stuff. Like that's all you need to know really to record. Like that's the thing that I got from you guys though is everything you do is done with an element of definitely an element of fun behind it. You don't seem like you take it. This is going to sound wrong, but you kind of don't look like you take yourselves too seriously, which is a good thing in my eyes. But you kind of do this, and it's fun, and it's kind of like we don't really care what everyone else is doing. This is what we like, so we're doing it. and that kind of came across to me and us because we're in the UK doing country music. Now, up until the last probably 18 months, where all of a sudden out of nowhere, country music is doing this in the UK. We've got huge country festivals now that we're performing. We're doing an arena later in the year, and
we're told that we need to come over to the UK because that's just where it's at right now.
It's kicking. Country music's kicking off over here, and all of a sudden there's a lot of rock bands that used to do rock. They're sort of veering. I play with another band that's like heavy prog rock and metal, and there was a lot of bands at this festival the weekend that should be really heavy, but they all seem to be going like a southern rock kind of sound, and it's sort of creeping its way to, so it's growing. As another artist, I know there's lots of Canadian country artists, but as artists outside of Nashville, which seems to be illegal according to comments online, what do you define country music as? Because we don't own pickup trucks, we don't live out in the wild back. So what is it to you guys?
I mean, I grew up with country music, and I mean, like my parents are divorced. Part of my family is sort of in a rural area, and then the other part is in like on the coast in Nova Scotia on the East Coast, like on an island, which isn't really your traditional. That's more like sea shanty type vibes, like Celtic music, But for me, and then Armand is from Brampton, which like kind of used to be country, but is also quite city. So
and now we both live in like the downtown core of Toronto, which is the biggest city in Canada.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people in the country that really connect with country music. And I think for me, it's a lot of it's about tradition, family, and storytelling. Like for me, it's like you said before, it's a really storytelling based thing where you can have a full, like so many country songs. I mean, a lot of them, are just good fun and parties and whatever. But a lot of them, and I think that's what people really connect with and find really meaningful, is you get the full story in a little song. It's not just saying like, I had a breakup and here's my emotions. It's like, here is the story of my grandparents' relationship from start to finish, or like, here was my relationship with my grandfather, or like, you get like little picture stories, which, coming from the world of theater, that really, really appeals to us. But I really think that that's a big part of what people connect with. And I mean, it's interesting too, because when we started out, we didn't originally aim to be country. We were just writing songs with an acoustic guitar. And I think that's another thing too, because pretty much everybody, like all music, not all music, obviously, but a lot of music stems from a guitar, just a guitar and a singer. And I think that's also another thing that helps people really connect with it, because it's sort of this like common ground where, even if I'm playing, punk songs, or like we do a lot of covers. We do a little cover series online where we do 80s songs and 90s songs.
I've seen them.
Like that. And
we've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
I want it that way.
Right? But that's the thing. Like when you you can strip down pretty much any song to a guitar, and that, that is just automatically going to give it some country vibes.
I just wonder that, because I find it it's difficult as well, because we don't sing with, we know UK, but we won't name, but we know of UK based country artists that really go to town on the accent.
Yeah, like, here too. It's hilarious.
I find it really weird. I was like, you're not from there. Like, where's the accent coming from? Like,
born and raised in the West Midlands, but as soon as I start singing, hey y'all.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's two sides to that, because one is as Nicole mentioned, kind of that country, the classic country vibe, which is like you said, the pickup truck conversation and all that stuff. But I think when in our world, at least in the indie country world, it stems from, a songwriter with a guitar, and then things slowly kind of build in around it, and country just kind of forms out of it.
How do you feel about when you sort of moving out of that? See, one of the dilemmas that me and Emma have had recently, I don't know how you feel about this, but we feel like it's been vindicated now by an artist called Hardy. You know Hardy?
Oh yes.
So Hardy's new album.
Just to kind of fill you in, Hardy's opening for Nickelback at Boots and Hearts.
Oh, okay.
So we have our gigantic country festival is called Boots and Hearts, and for reasons unbeknownst to anybody, Nickelback is headlining one of the nights.
Most hated.
Nothing. We don't get it. Don't get us wrong. We both enjoy Nickelback, but why they're at a country music festival is beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, Hardy's opening that one. So
yeah. See, Hardy's. Have you listened? I don't know if you've listened to his album, but it is just genius. It's so good from start to finish. It starts off really, really country, and by the end of it, it's metal.
Wow.
And
it's real slow transition across the album. It's phenomenally produced.
Fascinating.
It's gradual. There's like one song about halfway through the album that's like it's basically two songs in one song, isn't it? And both choruses are just absolutely banging. It's called, what's that one called? It's called Mockingbird.
That's the Mockingbird and the Crow.
Yeah, you need to check that song out. So it starts off
it sounds like a metal song.
Yeah.
So it starts off all very country. Well, no, a little bit country, but with a bit of audio. It's got like a bit of an audio slave undertone underneath it, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's just like full like metal track. And we wanted to do some heavier songs ourselves because we both come from metal backgrounds and heavy rock backgrounds as well as loving country. So we've started throwing a few tunes out that are like that. Do you guys ever sort of venture outside of that safe country zone, or do you?
Ours kind of came the opposite way, to be honest. Like we started out less country, and then when we sort of found a home there, we've definitely been leaning hard into it.
I think we still have elements of that musical theater vibe, that's for sure. Like that's particularly everything we released last year still has an element to it. But when it comes to like recording in the studio and our instrumentalists, there's a lot more pedal steel, there's a lot more banjo and things like that. I think when we were recording the first album 2 years ago, there were points where we kind of almost had to scale back. We're like, that's a little too punkish.
Yeah.
So I mean, our influences are all in there, but I think we've slowly kind of started to find where our niche is. For the first part of the year, I don't really think we had one.
No. When we first started out, it just was whatever came out. Like we've got a song on our first album that's like super duper like rock anthem. Like
we call it our big Bon Jovi anthem.
I think whenever you've got a situation where you've got a male and a female and they're having to harmonize together, that naturally lends itself towards something like country.
That's
we're both in metal bands, and I've never done a metal song where we've got harmonies in the background.
Oh, no, me. No. Wait, so how much of I know you do you do a lot of the production, like us, up until recent 4 songs that we've just done. Probably won't be doing again in a hurry because of the cost, because it costs a small fortune. We won't say. But yeah, we've just recorded new tracks today. We've produced them all ourselves. So how much of it do you guys do yourselves? Is it all of it, or do you get other people in, or what do you do?
So originally, we did everything ourselves for, I'd say probably at this point, I'm going to say about half.
I'd say all the way up until the beginning of 2022.
Yeah,
everything was the last one we did.
That was completely us. Yeah. So just everything, all instruments, all
mixing,
all production,
the whole 9 yards.
And then when we did, the first one was You Only Miss Me Because I'm Gone, the one that we have the music video for. That one we were like, oh, this is our big one. This is going to be like, it was almost like phase 2 is launched, you know? So we recruited some, other artists that we had met along the way to play instruments better than we could, like banjo and things that we don't play, to sort of do a more polished version of that for us. And then we have the master guy from Glass Tiger.
Sean Andrews, who works with Glass Tiger. He does all of our mixing and mastering now, and it's yes, you're right. I mean, there's money involved to it, but it's so worth it just because of the relief. We feel like we're excited about today, potentially tomorrow, because once we're done these last sets of vocals, we're done.
Yeah,
we can literally just send the tracks out and not have to think about them, because mixing and mastering was the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, it is a pain. We do like 99.9% of ours ourselves. We play everything ourselves as well, because Emma's got this strange Facebook marketplace addiction where she just buys random instruments and just starts learning them.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nice.
Every time I go around, there's a new instrument. I'm like, what's this thing? Like,
the mandolin can stay, the banjo's got to go. I just can't cope with it. I cannot cope with the banjo.
So banjo, mandolin. She bought a 12-string the other week. It's every day. She needs to stay off of Facebook, is what she needs to do.
See, what you need is, so that you don't have to learn the banjos, you need a banjitar, which is basically just a is a 6-string banjo. It's wonderful.
I was trying to think what they were called the other day. We were talking about it, and I was like, I don't know what they are, and I was calling it a banjar and a gitanjo, and I just couldn't remember what it was called. One of the things I want to talk about as well as your music. So you say you got an album out now, or is it?
So we're working on an EP right now. The first single from it came out back in
early
January. We don't remember release dates anymore. But the new one we're hoping to finish up and have in time for a spring release in May.
Okay, cool.
That's what that's what we're working on right now, which we're very excited about. Literally everything's done. The artwork is we're almost like 3 steps ahead on everything except for the music.
well, it's been rough. I mean, we've been sick and there's been stuff going on, and it's just a lot of setbacks. It's almost literally
like anything that wants to get in the way of us finishing this, because our goal was actually to have it done yesterday, and that didn't happen.
But you're not far over schedule. That's good.
No.
What we've all of the music aside for a second, you said you both do musical theatre. So where did that start? Where have you been doing this since you were kids, or what is it?
Kind of. I mean, I'm from a real small town where we don't have things. So I just lucked out. I did theater in high school. Seriously, we no offense to my hometown, obviously, but it's small. We don't have singing lessons and dance classes, and that's just not a thing.
We don't
have that. Things. The best we've got is Tim Hortons and McDonald's. That's it. Anyway, so in high school, and our high school doesn't even have a drama program anymore, but luckily while I was there, we did. So when I was in high school, I got to do some musicals. And that's where I kind of fell in love with it. My mom's always been her favorite singer is Barbra Streisand, as is mine. So that's what I grew up with, was that kind of music. And then Meatloaf is the other one, who's also very dramatic and musical theater oriented. So then I just did musical theater in high school, really fell in love with it. I was super academic when I was little. I was the type of kid that's oh, it's a hobby, but acting's not a real job, I'm gonna go be something scientific. But then at the end of grade 12, I just was devastated at the idea of never performing again. And finally, right at the last minute, at the end of grade 12, I was well, if I feel this strongly about it, maybe I should try it. So totally 180'd, completely went the other direction, and did theater in college instead. And just kind of been going at it ever since.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. We always talk about, people always talk about following your dream. When you actually go to do it, it's much harder than people think. So, when you get people like our Prime Minister telling us during lockdown that maybe people should go and get proper jobs, kind of setting himself up for a kick in the teeth there. A lot of people weren't happy with those comments. Right, I don't know if you've watched any of our previous episodes, but a certain person...
Don't do it, Steve, don't do it.
Might have took issue with musical theatre.
Not took issue.
I won't repeat the phrase that she used. I love musical theatre, first of all. Just to win. I love it. I'm a bit theatrical myself.
Throw me under the
I've only ever done bits of musical theatre. I've lost your volume, guys. I think you've just disappeared. I don't know whether you've muted yourselves.
Be me. I don't know.
But I've lost you.
I can hear.
Oh no, this is not a good point to end on.
Yeah.
No, I've got no audio.
Have you got anything? Can you even hear me, Steve?
I've got no audio from anyone.
Oh, that's a you problem then.
That sounds like a you problem, boyo. It's not an us problem.
I can't hear anything. Emma, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. You ask this question, then would you? Because I'm just going to try and figure out what's going on.
Okay. Okay.
Tell them about
so basically,
not like musical theatre.
And not like.
I don't know if I can redeem myself. So we had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to ask you 4 questions at the end, and we're going to ask the same 4 questions to every guest that we get on. And one of them was to do with kind of music that inspired you to start singing. And there's it's a group in the UK in the 90s, early 2000s who got a lot of bad stick because they were cheese personified, called Steps. I don't know if you're aware of them over there. It was kind of dance moves, and it wasn't very cool, but it was my thing. And there were 5 people in the group, 3 girls, 2 boys, and I learned to sing harmonies by listening to the 3 girls sing, and I'd try and work out what that vocal line is and what that vocal line is. And they sang a song, I Know Him So Well. Is that from Chess?
Mm-hmm.
And nice. I may have said to our previous guest that I don't really like musicals, and my actual phrasing was musicals can suck a dick.
We're out. Let's go.
Right, guys, on that point there, can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Good timing, Steve. Very good timing. Threw me under the bus and then went, I've got you again now, guys.
My output on my interface has just suddenly stopped working for some reason, so I don't know why that is.
So whilst I say it's not a genre I enjoy, it has an important place in my life as it taught me how to sing harmonies, and I think that's something Steve
you dug yourself out that grave, yeah?
I've tried to.
Hey, look, I think with musicals though, I think there's varying different types of musicals. So I like Phantom of the Opera. I really love like Les Mis and the big opera, the operatic theatre. I love all of that. Emma clearly isn't a fan, but what I find from musical theatre though, it does allow you to be, I don't know, I think it gives you a wider perspective of the audience, because you have to learn to, especially from a performing point of view, because you've got to learn to project. And oftentimes you won't necessarily have a microphone either. So how do you find singing with that as a background and then taking that to more sort of commercial music? How is that different for you vocally? Because I would say that was quite difficult.
Well, Armand comes from more of a music industry-esque background than I did, certainly. And so when we started recording together, he tried to retrain me how to sing because I was 150% musical theater voice.
Yeah, it was really the vibratos. That was the there's I don't know if you know there's a Taylor Swift song called "You Need to Calm Down."
Yes.
And there's that little snippet called "You Need to Calm Down," and I would always have it on a track at the very, very bottom of Logic whenever we're recording. And if Nicole just went too far over on the musical theater side, I would just basically scale it back, play that track back, and she'd know, okay, all right. No, I mean it even singing in kind of this environment, coming from an alternative and a punk background into something like this, where it's when we started, it was literally just an acoustic guitar and having to really kind of focus on the harmonies that we were singing. It was a learning curve all around, I think, for both of us in different ways. So I think we've both become better performers, we've both become better singers out of all this, and it's it's been fun, I think.
I think you're right. I think as soon as you start performing with someone else, it takes you away from a selfish place of I'm going to do this to suddenly you're thinking about, well, it's not just about me. It's this other person as well. And how can we fit together and make it sound better? Mm. We have to think about that when we write songs. Steve sent over a backing track a couple of weeks ago and I wrote some lyrics to it and I sent it back to him going, you can sing this one. And then today.
Yeah, but Emma normally does that when she's got controversial lyrics. And she makes me sing them instead. So
I love writing songs for boys to sing. I love it.
Just trying to get me cancelled. Everyone. How do you guys find that? By the way, the whole I don't know what it's like in Canada, but the whole cancel culture thing's bloody rife over here.
Well, Canada's got a reputation of being the nicest people in the world.
Oddly, but you know what's funny though is that when it comes to that specifically, we almost kind of, as particularly for Canadian artists, because when it comes to other artists, you know, from the US and things like that, they kind of take care of themselves and then we just follow suit. But for things that happen within Canadian artists, there's almost just it's a zero tolerance for things like that.
Really,
I'm trying to think of some of the there was a band called Headley, which was very, very large in Canada. The singer won, I think, the first season of Canadian Idol. He essentially got charged with there were sexual misconduct allegations and underage, and
well, that kind of is not nice everywhere. No, maybe not. That's not exclusive.
But to give you an idea, like instantly, Headley was done in Simple Plan, who you might know. Simple Plan, the bassist had similar allegations, and he was out of the band. Like there's the moment.
So even at the allegation stage is what you're saying. There's no trial. It does nothing needs to be proven. You just
and most of the time, it's actually the person that's under those allegations that actually steps down. And most of the time, when that happens, you're like, yeah. But I think that's one of the big differences is that most of the time, people will voluntarily step down and just be like, cool, I'm out. And I don't know if that's more or less respectable, but at the same time, you know, we did have a big conversation about this, that in Canada it does seem like there's significantly less tolerance for anything of that sort.
Really? Okay.
Which it's not a bad thing. It's it just we hold our other Canadians accountable, I guess, on the night.
Yeah. Emma has a list of questions.
I do.
Yeah, she wants to fire at you. She wants to fire at most guests. They're not easy. I'm going to pre-warn you.
Okay.
So
they're not invasive either. I think it's worth noting.
Okay.
No,
it's not what's your favorite color. Okay.
No, damn it! I'll put that on the list. So, what is your favorite album or song? Because we're having to move with the times of all time.
Okay, so I was thinking about this the other day because we just played a gig on Friday night, and it's obviously always really hard for an artist to choose their favorite song like ever. But we played with another girl the other night, and she did a cover of Footloose, and I was like, do you know what? I think this might be my favorite song because no matter what mood I'm in, I'm never not in the mood for Footloose. You know, like it'll pick me up. It'll and also, so there's a stage musical version of Footloose, which I was in grade 11, and that show changed my life. That is the show that made me want to do theater forever. So normally I would think of a musical theater song or something that has some kind of deep significance to me, but I honestly think it might be Footloose. I think maybe it's Footloose.
There you go. Well answered. What about yourself? You're not going to get away with it.
No, I know. I feel like anytime that we get asked this in an interview, my answer changes.
Something dashboard.
Yeah. Album. Oh, I hate this question so much.
I know, it's awful. It's absolutely awful.
Just give you a bit of an insight though to the characters behind the music. I think because when we sort of revealed ours last week, I think it probably said a bit about.
Which, FYI, Cher, Heart of Stone, 1989, greatest album ever made. Steve, what was yours? That's like Prince, wasn't it?
Yeah, mine was a Prince song.
That's the way I dismissed that. Something with Prince.
The album of my favorite album ever was Michael Jackson.
That was it.
It was the Bad.
Yeah.
Bad. The one that that was mine. But yeah, it's a tough one.
It is. I mean, I may be going back to my emo days just because I feel like that's the thing that me the most. I was a huge and still am a huge Dashboard Confessional fan. So Places You've Come to Fear the Most is just spoke to my teenage soul in so many levels. Lately, and I think I don't think anything's come close to Taylor's Folklore album because I think Folklore was a masterpiece of a record.
You guys are big Taylor Swift fans. I
me more than,
I've noted.
but yeah,
is that you? That is okay,
100% me. But no, I thought Folklore was just a great album in terms of just the concept of it to what, how it was recorded. So lately, that's been the one that I've been listening to quite a bit.
Awesome.
I honestly would probably have to pull up my my Apple Music and just look at the top 50 most played to give you a more concrete answer.
Okay. Well, Nicole's already kind of answered this question, because question number 2 is what song made you want to be a singer? So you already kind of thrown a bit of footloose out there.
That's true. And then also, because Barbra Streisand, there's a song from Yentl. I don't know if you know musical theater, like
Yentl.
Papa, can you hear me? It's not that song, but that's the
only one I
show,
know.
right? That's the show. There's a song called "A Piece of Sky," which is basically about, I don't know, like sort of being your whole life thinking of things one way, and then you find out there's something more out there, and then you can't live with things the way they are anymore. Now that there's something else out there, you always want that other thing, kind of thing. So that's one I would say for me.
when I was probably 4, that's when my parents got me a guitar. I didn't know how to play it. They just got it. I don't even think it was could have not even been a real guitar. It just sounded awful. And they got me like a mic and like a little tiny like PA system. And I grew up on Sharon, Lois, and Bram. I don't know if you had them out there. But
no, it's very Canadian, I think.
The elephant show, as we like to call it here. But my goal was just to like emulate them as much as possible. So I would just be singing Sharon, Lois, and Bram songs as a kid. So that's probably where it started. I mean, I've always had a passion for the stage and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think, growing up with songs like from Green Day and Blink-182 and Sum 41 and all the songs that were very easy to play on a guitar.
Yes.
Were the route that I always went. And I think that's kind of what led to all the different high school bands and then on.
Okay. What songs are you both listening to right now?
Oh, oh my God.
There's I don't know if she's hit. I'm sure she's hit out there so far, but Tennille Townes.
Oh yeah.
So Tennille Townes we listened to quite a bit lately. Saw her recently and she was phenomenal. But you already have an answer lined up, so
do I?
I don't know. You had the look on your face.
I thought I did, and now I'm confused. So last night, hilariously, I don't know, it came up randomly on Spotify, and I listened to it like 8 times because I was like, you know what? I don't hate this. The new Shania Twain song, "Giddy Up."
Oh,
I heard it, and I was like, at first we heard it, and we were like, wow, this isn't really Shania. And then I just listened to it like 8 times in a row last night, and I was like, I don't hate it.
Oh my God, it's brilliant.
You need to go and watch our reactive. We do sometimes do these like reactive videos that the kids do because it's kind of trendy to do those these days. And we did one to that song. Emma introduced me to that song.
It's one of the greatest. Yes.
She enjoyed it.
Yes, I did.
She did. You should have seen her bouncing around the room.
It took me back to my cheese-loving roots.
What was the band Steps, isn't it?
Yes.
So, did you know the band Steps?
No, whilst you disappeared to fix your cabling, I admitted my shameful past.
Oh dear God, yeah.
Are they? I'm picturing. Do you guys? Oh, you must. S Club 7. That's what I'm picturing when you. Is it
there
that kind of?
There was the big S Club 7 Steps rivalry of the early noughties.
We only had S Club 7 over here. So.
Yeah, I mean, S Club made it and Steps didn't. Damn it!
No, you don't know what you're missing.
Oh, we're gonna check it out.
Yeah. You have to.
God. Didn't they butcher a Bee Gees classic?
You can shut your face now, Stephen. Their new albums have been brilliant.
Oh, and they've stood the test of time too. There.
Yes.
Oh no, they did have like a 20-year hiatus.
They took a 20-year break, I think.
Technically, S Club still does, but they're just called S Club 3 now.
Oh. Well, they were going to go on tour again as S Club 7, but I don't know if it's made the news in Canada. But Paul, I can't remember his surname, died a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Come on to the Westlands podcast. We'll drop shit news at your doorstep.
Yeah. Hope
there's
Catamol.
We've had a big like old school 90s pop revival thing happening.
Yes.
We're getting tours, last year it was Aqua, Prozac. A couple years before that, it was the Venga Boys and S Club were playing together.
Venga Boys.
I love the Venga Boys.
And they were, and like the first time we went to go see Aqua, we kind of went as a joke. We're like, oh, this will be funny. It'll be, and we walked away going like, that was a really good show. Like, they were really, really good. And the funny thing is, it was probably their first time in Canada, and who knows, like, since we were all allowed to finally go and see them live, and everybody was walking away just with this. Like, that was a lot better than we all thought it was going to be.
Feeling.
Yeah. So, and we've seen them a couple times since, and they're so much fun live.
There you go. As long as it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Emma, was there another question? I think there's
one more. If you could collab with anybody or have a duet, who would it be?
You know my answer. Mine's Taylor. Mine will always be Taylor Swift.
Just
just because I'd want to sit down and just, like, if I could be inside of her brain for an hour, I would be a happy person, just because
she's just probably thinking about an ex-boyfriend.
Oh, did you hear?
Yeah, she just broke up with it, so
there's hope for you.
Oh, there's another album.
There's another album coming.
There's another album.
Yeah, I see it all over the news. People are like, did you hear she wrote a broke-up song before they broke up? She was planning it all along. Good Lord. And poor thing. I can't even imagine. Hey, anyway.
Comes with the territory of being the biggest artist in the world right now.
Yeah, I do like Taylor Swift. Some of well, not all, but some a good
Speak
majority.
Now is one of my favorite in my top 10 of favorite albums. Speak Now, I think, is
a good majority of her stuff I liked. I think there was a little. I don't know how long ago it was now, because I've lost all sense of time since COVID. But there was a period where she went super pop.
Yeah,
sort of banished the guitar altogether, kind of thing, and I didn't like that era, but now it seems to have come back round again, and the new stuff she's putting out is really good, I think. Have you guys checked out the new Luke Combs album?
No,
I haven't listened to it yet.
No, yeah, that's good. I think he's back to his best as well, because I think his first album was so good, it was really difficult to write the second album and have it still have as many, because I think he had like 15 number ones or something stupid off the first album.
I'll take that.
It was quite so this new album, I think he's kind of back. That's what I'm listening to anyway right now. And the 3 songs that Brothers Osborne have just dropped as well, they're really good too. And we've seen them live.
I've gone back to some old music that I was listening to in my youth, because I'm a massive Sarah McLachlan fan. Huge. So I've been listening to Surfacing and Family Without Ecstasy, because I just think in terms of song construction, she's an amazing songwriter.
She's an incredible songwriter.
Yeah.
Incredible voice as well.
Yeah.
Great voice.
What about you, Nicole? Who could you duet with?
Oh, I was hoping you'd forgotten me.
No. No. Alas, no.
I don't. I think on the subject of nostalgia, it would have to be just somebody, from my childhood who like meant so much to me. Like, obviously Barbra Streisand, gonna come back to that because why not? Also maybe Reba, or maybe like Alan Jackson. Because come on, right? Like, can you even imagine
to sing Fancy with Reba?
Right? That was going to be my other vote for like favorite song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah.
Can I throw another question in to the mix while we're talking about favorite things here? So I know this might be a difficult one for one of you to answer. Favorite horror movie? One of you isn't a fan of horror movies. I remember seeing on one of your.
Oh no, he tried to pretend like I was afraid when we watched The Conjuring.
Please, jumped multiple times.
Because we were at a cottage in the middle of nowhere in the dark, and there was a noise outside. Not because of the movie.
No, we both absolutely love horror movies. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I need to split that into like modern and classic, because classic. It's going to be between The Exorcist and Halloween. Exorcist, just because it's to this day it still holds up. There are certain moments of The Exorcist that are still traumatizing. Halloween, I think, set the standard for what a slasher needed to be, and I think the fact that you literally, I mean, there were only 3 kills in that entire movie, but the fact that there was no blood and no gore, like that movie was literally just about the horror of what Michael Myers was. So for me, those will always be the classics. And recently, I gotta say The Conjuring, because the first time I saw The Conjuring in theaters 10 years ago, it terrified. I saw it on a date, and that was not a good idea because I was sitting in my chair just like, no, this is not fun.
I saw a Saw movie on a date, and I hate horror movies, and I particularly hate gory horror movies. I've got no stomach for it.
That was the perfect film, then.
It was absolutely awful.
I'll tell you which one was it.
No, she married the nan. That was the end of that relationship. What? No.
I'm so scared of one film that the new one has just come out, and I've been putting off watching it now for days and days and days, and I'll explain why it's so frightening to me in a second. Emma,
the Muppets, what?
Emma might guess it, but you know, The Quiet Place. So I found that first bloody film so stressful. Just the idea of being quiet really was the most frightening bit about it.
It wouldn't happen. Steve wouldn't make it through the first act. That's it, done.
Same.
Gone.
Me and my daughter would be the first two dead.
Oh no.
That was a brilliant film too. That really
Amazing
really
film.
was. Also, for John Krasinski to write and direct that's the other shocker at the end. But I love the fact that even like the daughter in the film, like that he cast, he wanted to make sure that she was deaf so that like she could communicate the right way. But that was a great film. Yeah, that one was really good.
I need to watch the new one, but I just can't bring myself to do it yet. That level of silence just gives me chills just thinking about it.
It's not even the monsters. It's not the music. No, it's the sheer idea. It's just the sheer idea of being quiet.
No, that's the one, man. It would kill me. We was talking about obviously the fact that you guys started all of this during COVID. So assuming the bubble situation, we don't know your personal life, but you two must live together. No, you don't live. No, you don't. No. So you was doing all of that recording elsewhere.
We were each other's
just
bubble.
Decided.
Oh, you decided.
I mean, we didn't have jobs or anything, so like there wasn't really a lot of other people we were endangering.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, because that's why I was thinking that maybe you did, because there's so much content that I'm thinking like people can only produce this level of content if they are living together. So is that what was happening, or whether you've just teamed up because of the COVID situation and went, right, this is our bubble, we're doing this thing?
Pretty much.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
We had to write a letter of employment every time that I would take you home.
Oh, because we were trying to get our vaccines and they were doing it by postal codes, and his postal code was like more in need than my postal code, but it was okay if you worked there. So he wrote me a letter of employment so I could get my vaccine.
There was also the point where our premier, who's
an idiot,
a horrible human being.
Yep.
Tried to put a law in where you weren't you weren't allowed to leave he tried to make that a law. So anytime that I had to drive her home, we had to basically put a letter of employment to say oh, she's going home from work, because that's how stupid our regulations were. Our lockdown, there was a point where our lockdowns were the most restrictive in the world, according to multiple sources, and it was just awful.
You should have just done what I was going to say. You should have just done what the British people did and ignored all the rules.
Prime Minister had a massive party and lied about it.
Yeah,
our premiere, really.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, right. What's next then, guys? So, what's on the horizon? You got this EP coming out. Shows that you are doing. Is there anything that? Did I hear you? I listened to that many different people's things, and I've been researching that many people. Did I hear you guys say something about doing a live stream type show, or am I imagining that? Or is that something you would consider?
I mean, our live streams we're always open to things. I mean, you ask us to play, we'll be like, cool, where? Just because we love it so much. But whenever we do live streams, it's usually because we're in we're up at a cottage and just feel like it's just the right environment for it. We've been getting into the habit of doing Christmas live streams, which have been a lot of fun. But honestly, with this EP and with the amount of shows that we have coming up in April and May and going into June, we had to struggle to find points of when we were actually going to rehearse with the band for the next big show that we have coming up. So
all right, okay.
Yeah,
So what's the gig scene like where you guys are based? Do you have to travel much for it, or is it pretty in Toronto? Is it a pretty busy scene?
Toronto is a huge music city. I mean, we've got venues left, right, and center. Toronto is not a country music city.
Okay.
So yeah, we typically have to venture. I mean, sometimes it's usually like half an hour to 45 minutes outside of Toronto into the suburbs to actually find a country venue, and unless we're actually promoting it or producing it ourselves, stuff in Toronto doesn't usually happen.
We have the same issue here. I mean, that's why I ask, because it
Venues
is getting
shutting down every week in this country.
Oh,
yeah. Since COVID, a lot of them just haven't survived, have they? So
yeah.
there's quite a few sort of diversifying though, like places that used to be predominantly, metal and rock clubs are kind of opening their doors to a lot more varying acts, like the Gifford, for example. We play the Gifford. That's a metal venue. We've done country shows in there now. They've got funk shows going on in there. They've got all sorts. So I think the venues that have managed to get through it are probably going to thrive for the next 4 or 5 years, because they're the only venues to go to. So therefore, the only good thing, I suppose, about being in the UK, and particularly where we're situated right bang in the middle of it, is everywhere's a 2-hour drive. Like, the furthest place you're going to go is probably going to be 2 hours. Over there, it's a little bigger. So especially if you're in the States, I can imagine that being a pain if you want to play even just like the next neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, we did our first US dates last year, and even that, just what did we do? We did 2 or 3 dates in the US, and even that just on the sheer fact of like getting over the border was it's the first time that I've had to we crossed the border where you're like, okay, we're actually like
nervous
about crossing. Normally you're like, for whatever reason, US customs will already make you feel nervous even though you have nothing to hide. And this time we were just like, all right, well, we need to cover our tracks. So.
Yeah, leave the drugs at home.
Oddly enough, we booked tickets to a musical that we could go see during the day, so that was our excuse for crossing the border.
We're not working. I swear, we're not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've got a situation here as well now where I've been in bands in the past and we've been able to tour places like Europe, no problem at all. And now, because of what happened with Brexit, we've now got to get a working visa.
Yeah.
To go there because it's considered work. So it's just, even though you don't get paid most of the time. So like, it's a strange one, because the world in one respect has kind of forced everything. I ask about the online thing because, and I might have mentioned this on the podcast with Letitia. We did this thing. I run a sort of media production company. So I do like live streaming events for like boxing, kickboxing, fight shows. And I figured, well, we should try it with music. And a rapper reached out to me. And we did a show. We invited about 20, I think there was about 25 people in the venue, which he charged like a VIP ticket. He talked to them, answer their questions live, and then perform songs in between all of that. But because he had a relatively good following online and he sold his tickets super cheap, he did like £15,000 in like one show. What? Yeah, just on online ticket sales. And and I just wondered why more artists aren't doing it, because it's something we're going to do in the future. Like when we release an album /EP or whatever it is next, we are definitely going to do a pay-per-view type show. Is that something you've seen anyone else do, or am I just the only one thinking it? Maybe it's no one's doing it because it's a bad idea. I don't know.
No, I mean, I honestly think, I mean, for the longest time, live streaming was the way to go. And even as things were opening up, live streaming continued, just because there were so many people that still weren't comfortable going out to see venues. And even now, there's still a little bit of apprehension about going out to things.
Also, people got lazy because they're like, I can just do this from home. Like a lot of, I feel like nowadays, there's a lot of people who just sit and watch YouTube all day. And I think for that crowd, and it's just always going to make sense.
And for example, like Dave Woods, who is one of just the main like major personalities here in Ontario, he hosts Writers Round all the time, and then he moved them to StreamYard, actually doing like a full like online Writers in the Round. But even that kind of stopped because now everything's, live is kind of back up and running now. So most people would just rather get out and because they can.
Yeah, I think combining the two is quite interesting though, because there isn't because we're a UK-based country band. It's growing over here, and we're definitely picking up followers every week. And it seems that more and more people are coming to the shows, which is great. But a lot of our followers are US-based.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're not going to be coming out to the US anytime soon.
Not unless somebody wants to pay for a ticket. Hint, hint.
Yeah. So that's something we'll look to do for our international followers more so. So it has opened that door, I think, for us quite a bit, and that has made things a little more interesting. Right. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys before we go any further, do you have any tips that you could give our listeners, maybe fellow musicians or artists, on how you sort of brainstorm? I don't know if you do that or whether one of you just comes up with these ideas randomly, but the content thing is something that is such a big thing now. If you're going to be a musician, you've got to create a whole brand. You've got to be a thing. You can't just be a musician anymore. It's almost like you've got to be a marketing media agency as well.
A personality, haven't you?
Yes.
You can't just be a singer. You've got to be a personality.
How do you guys go about planning? Because you've always got something like the 90s, the Taylor Swift show. If I remember right, I saw you do a Hamilton thing. Where's all that coming from? Do you sit down purposefully and sit through the next few months and go, let's do this, and this? Do you storm it? What do you do?
It's a bit of both, I think. Like, to answer, I think the first half of that question, the personality, and I guess the entity or your brand, brand, for lack of a better term, that wasn't really planned. That's just kind of us. Like, we're really quirky dorks that happen to play music.
Yeah. So like, and we still do stuff like as friends. Like, we'll go to the movies, or we'll go to see a play, or we'll go do such and such a thing before a gig. We'll be like, let's explore the town or whatever, and then we just film little clips of that and post the stupid things we say.
It's true, and that's honestly how half the content comes up, is literally just us hanging out, and we're like, hey, let's film it, and then people seem to be interested, and we're like, all right, we'll take
people
it.
Save our posts that are just like weird personal stuff of ours, and we're like people care more about the personality stuff than they do about the music sometimes, which is a bit strange, really. Like, they'll save pictures of us, because you can see where somebody saves on Instagram a picture of you, right? And it's a bit like, all right,
a little bit voyeuristic, just a little bit.
But, as far as planning goes, I think one of the things that we learned from 2021, because like you said, 2021 was such a ridiculous year for us, just in terms of content and everything that we were releasing, and we went on tour somehow. That when we got to the end of 2021, and we were at the point where we were almost ready to call it, just because we were exhausted, we were tired, we lost sight of why we were doing it in the first place, which was literally like, we're doing this to have fun. Like, let's stop thinking about everything else. So we kind of reconvened and said, okay, well, what can we do better? What can we do easier? And planning out social media has also been like, we do have a lineup of things that we do have planned. So for example, the Broadtree Does series,
that's our covers.
That's our cover series. We will have a theme. So we already know what our next two themes are going to be. And we already kind of have an idea of when those, like, what the songs are going to be for those themes. And if we have some time in the middle of rehearsal, we'll record one or two and then bank them. And when we need them, it's nice to know that we can just basically pull them out and drop them in. We do have a social media calendar that we try to plan a month in advance, and then every 2 weeks we're having to change it just because something new pops
something up. Comes up, like
like for example, the EP we were planning on announcing on Friday, probably not going to happen just because we haven't finished it yet.
So, that's an issue.
So we're always pivoting with what's going on our end, but I think planning things, every time that we sit down for a rehearsal or anything, we usually sit down, and every week we'll look at the social calendar, as we call it, and be like, what do we need to plug in any holes? Like, we have our, like, we like our grid, and our grid needs to be somewhat pretty organized, and
As is a little more random, I think.
It is a bit.
It's a combo of both, but I do think that planning has made our lives a lot easier.
Yeah. Do the spreadsheet. Do it.
Honestly, like take out a calendar and map it out, because that number one tip we can say is that it's when you plan out and you kind of already know important dates well ahead of time. So we already know, like today, we knew that we were going to announce this major show at the Horseshoe, which is one of the most prestigious venues that Toronto and Canada has to offer. We had this date for almost 2 months, and we knew that today was going to be the day that we were going to announce it. So we had that post planned and ready to go. We've had the artwork done for a month.
Yeah.
So
awesome. No, that's good, because we do say to people, we've just started really doing that ourselves, haven't we? Like, we're really interested in just talking to people, which is why we've kind of gone down the podcast route. It's and the good thing about podcasts is that as the channel grows, these podcasts will be here for people to listen to for years to come and months to come. So and we're about to start promoting all of the podcasts now as well. So just getting all that set up. So so all these episodes now will be getting a bit of a push. And I hope people do find them interesting and useful, because what we're trying to do where possible is speak to people from as many different types of varying backgrounds as humanly possible. But with a little bit of a country undertone to it all. However, we've recently covered music by artists that have absolutely nothing to do with country, but we just really love the storytelling. So it's still related, but that's kind of what we've started to do. Before we finish, where can people find y'all?
So
got that in.
We are called Broadtree, which is one word. And we're on all the streamy weemy platforms, the Apple Music and the Spotify and the Napster and the Amazon and all the things. And then if you want to see all this weird, quirky content we've been talking about, you can follow us at Broadtree Music on all the socially things, except for TikTok, because we haven't figured that one out yet. That's still something that we're like, we don't know what this is. We're old. We don't.
I leave that to Steve. I leave that to Steve.
Honestly, we're still in the search of finding somebody who's like in their late teens,
To
early
teach
20s,
us.
or that we can just pay to take over, and we'll just give them the content and they can manage our TikTok.
TikTok's actually relatively easy. Like, if you just posted the video stuff that you post to Instagram and just post those reels straight to TikTok, that is pretty much it. But the only thing I would say with that, what I found that we've started to grow on that since we've used less hashtags on that platform. For some reason, I don't think they're like lots and lots of hashtags, maybe 2, maybe 3. Be really specific with it, like, and they seem to like that. Same as YouTube Shorts. I don't know whether you use YouTube Shorts much, but YouTube Shorts has been the number one route. Our channel is. So what we do is we put our long form content out, and then without having to upload anything separate, you can go onto your video and then just click remix video and then create a 1-minute short from that video that you've already made. So you can create endless numbers of content for your reels, for your shorts. And those are crazy. We're getting crazy numbers on those. Like, within a day, I think we posted something up, and within the first day, they've had like 1,000 views, and they've gained us like, and then they'll gain you like an X number of subscribe. We're gaining a lot of subscribers from the shorts as well. And what we're seeing is happening is people are going from the shorts, and then they're going to the long form content straight after.
Nice.
So definitely, if you want to grow your YouTube channel, we've only just really started using YouTube properly in the last, say, 5 or 6 weeks. It's been about that, hasn't it? And I think in the last month, we've had 640 new subscribers.
Nice.
So like we were stuck on like less than 100 for ages. And then we started doing things a little differently, started using the shorts and things. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere now, we're closing in on that monetization. We set we set a goal actually of 1,000 subscribers by Christmas, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that was about a month ago. So, and we're like,
Yay.
We're like 207 off.
That's awesome.
One every day gets a little bit closer to giving up the job.
Yeah. So guys, please, I implore you to go and check them out. Even if country music isn't your thing, their content is always entertaining. There's always ideas, and if you're an artist yourself, I think it's a good example. I've actually, guys, I work with artists and I do marketing for people and various different things like that. And I will often send people to your page.
Oh, thank you.
And I send them there as an example. So like, I love even the things like the Ask Us Anything. of which you get some.
Do you get asked some really weird stuff?
Sometimes. I feel like we've gotten weird questions like about weird food combinations. So I vaguely remember something about pickles and peanut butter. Or I don't
know. You use that as an answer.
Somebody
asked me your pet peeves, and you talked about me eating cucumbers. That's a whole other. I like.
Is it how you eat the cucumber?
Yes, it is.
Now I need to know how.
No.
I didn't mean like visually.
You missed
Scooby-Doo.
You came about 2 minutes early when I walked in. And you missed those comments.
We'll talk about that off air.
Yeah. I take cucumber and I slice it. And I do lime and I do salt and chili powder on it. And that's a snack.
That is, you eat it as a meal. That's the weird part.
I do not eat it as a meal. It is a snack.
That sounds okay.
It is very good.
I think I could try that. That's cool. Well, thank you very much for being on here. We try to keep these around about an hour roughly. But yeah, it's been great speaking to you, and we'd love to have you back on when maybe the albums come out, your EP's out. We can talk about that and actually talk about the music a little bit more. So you don't want to give too much away before it's out. But guys, like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description everywhere. If you're on YouTube, it'll be down there. Facebook, it'll be up there. Instagram down there. They're all in different places. But we'll put links to everything you guys do, and we'll put them all in the description area so everybody can go and check you out and find you, and wish you all the success in the world going forward. But thank you for being our guests.
Thank you, Broadtree.
Thank you very much. That's it. Our podcast has now gone international. We're taking over the world. Guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. And we will be back with more very, very soon. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Say bye-bye.